Bhosip Kaiwi appears in court. Minister calls for tougher laws on GBV. And Wewak MP appointed CLRC Chairman.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Tuesday, The main suspect in the gruesome murder of Jeneline Kennedy was heavily escorted by CID officers to the Wagani Committal Court this morning. Bhosip Kaiwi appeared for his first mention before Magistrate Tracy Ganai. Bhosip's lawyer was unsuccessful in an attempt to have him remanded at the Boroko cell. Instead, the magistrate granted a warrant for his release from Boroko and to be remanded at the Bomana prison. Bhosip Kaiwi has been charged with willful murder, and at Cora reports.
Suspect Bhosip Kaiwi arrived at the committal court this morning for his first mention to a vast and anxious crowd waiting outside, packed with families and many from the public following the case. Heavily escorted by CID officers into the court holding area, Kaiwi had his face concealed with a white cloth, the face that many have been waiting to see since the death of young Jeneline. Kaiwi's appearance in the courtroom, packed with members of the late Jeneline's family, seemed tense. The noisy crowd outside the courtroom did little to mitigate the tension that the magistrate had to delay start for a few minutes to have the crowd outside moved away from the courtroom to let proceedings take its course. Court went into session after Kaiwi stood to have his charges read out to him by Magistrate Ganai. Two submissions were made by lawyer representing Kaiwi. The first asking the court to have Kaiwi remanded back at the Boroko police cells and not up to Bomana Correctional Facility, citing security reasons. And the second was to have court issue an order to media and social media users to stop the widespread information given the sensitivity of the case. All to which Magistrate Ganai responded, stating that once charges have been laid, the process would be that the defendant be transferred up to the correctional facility and arrangements can be made then with police and or the correctional service should the lawyer feel the defendant's safety is at risk. Further expounding on the second request by Kaiwi's lawyer, that the court has no control over social media, let alone the mainstream media, and should a defendant be affected by any report, there are laws in place to deal with this matter separately. The magistrate issuing a remand warrant shortly after Kaiwi's case was adjourned to the 30th of July 2020. It is between now and then that the police prosecutor will be required to build and provide an updated status on the case investigations before Kaiwi's next mention on the 30th of July 2020. Meanwhile, MTV confirmed Kaiwi is back at the Boroko police cells awaiting his remand warrant and is expected to be moved up to the Bomana Correctional Service facility tomorrow morning. Anet Cora, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, directions have been issued for police to conduct separate investigations into the handling of Jeneline Kennedy's case by the police in the last 2 years leading up to her death. Police Commissioner David Manning issued this directive yesterday following a briefing from the Family and Sexual Violence Unit. The brief detailed her visits to FSVU in the 3 months prior to her death.
We felt that,
After being briefed by the Family and Sexual Violence Unit, Commissioner Manning in a statement raised different questions, given the fact that Jeneline lived in an abusive relationship for over 2 years. Questions he raised include what police did to protect her, why interventions were not made, and where family members were when she was tortured during the last 5 days of her life. These, he said, were questions that needed answers, and weaknesses within the systems need to be identified and changed to ensure women are better protected from such violence. Information provided to the Commissioner by the Family and Sexual Violence Unit include Bhosip engaging his lawyer to call the Family and Sexual Violence Unit, and when told to bring his client to the office the next day, he never turns up until today. An interim protection order was served on Kaiwi, but sadly, the order did not serve its purpose. He murdered her even when a protection order was in place. Mr. Manning expressed concern if the police had done enough for Jeneline Jeneline if the laws were adequate enough to deal with such cases, why Jeneline came out of safe houses, why it took months to arrest Bhosip, and if the government systems were adequate not just to protect women, but to sustain their livelihoods in the long run. This, he says, is because victims of family and sexual violence at most times come out with no one to support them financially, forcing most of them to go back to their abusive partners. Manning plans to call for a forum after investigations are completed to look at ways to strengthen existing laws, ensure police are more responsive, and to push for the state to provide long-term support systems for victims of family and sexual violence. In the meantime, the family of Bhosip Kaiwi have taken out a full-page paid advertisement on the two dailies, expressing their sorrow and apologizing to the family and the nation for the actions of their family member. They also condemned these actions and also called for justice to be served and promised not to interfere or influence the justice system. And that is exactly what the family of Jeneline want.
Killing another person, what good do we get out of killing another person? Nothing. We want to see this at the national level, how we can look at this issue, how we can address it.
Seemingly distancing themselves from the wealth Bhosip flaunted on social media, they said he was a man who lived his own life, accumulated his own wealth, and conducted himself in a way he thought fit. But many on social media thought the apology from the family came late and said they should have done more to save her, and the apology they alleged is to save the family name. Ruth Rungula, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, planned marches highlighting domestic violence are in progress. The family of Jeneline Kennedy are organizing a protest march planned for Thursday. Another group will hold a vigil on Thursday night. Following the rise in gender-based violence in the country and the recent death of Jeneline Kennedy, the Department of Community Development has made its commitment to address this issue. Minister Wake Goi says they will be pushing for more funding from the government to help enforce laws on gender-based violence. The minister said everyone must take ownership to help prevent gender-based violence in their communities.
Speaking to the media this afternoon, the minister expressed his heartfelt condolences to families of the victim. He further condemned the act of violence, saying they will be pushing for more government support to address this issue. The minister will be pushing for a special parliamentary committee on gender-based violence and to establish violence against women response mechanism.
I will do my part for the government to give gender-based violence or violence against women as a priority and serious funding consideration. The law that we need to give to really incorporate or act or whatever law, people know better way to say it. We must make sure that no one gets hope when found guilty.
According to the minister, there are laws in place to protect women and children against violence. The laws include the Lookout Impikini Act, which was introduced by the department, including the Criminal Code Act, and the department is reviewing laws and policies on gender-based violence. However, enforcement of the laws is the problem, and there is a need for more funding to help enforce the laws.
Violence is a social and development issue. It needs strong political will and capital investment and tangible resource allocation into this. The lack of budgetary support has continued to hinder our efforts in addressing GBV and effectively seek cabinet support for adequate resource funding.
In a recent men's forum conducted by the department, men have raised concerns on the causes of violence. According to a survey, violence is mainly caused by lack of communication, cultural misunderstanding, male ego and social media. The minister says men and boys must be the catalyst to stop violence against women.
You can stand up as a man, ready to forgive, give warning. Talking more papa mama lo come straight to marry, or talking papa mama lo man lo come straight to man. You know, there's plenty ways you can help him. Lo handle him all display issues then shortcut.
According to Secretary Anna Kavanagh, people are not reporting such cases in their communities, but with the help of social media, people are coming out to report these cases. However, there are many cases in rural communities which are not reported.
When you go to the rural areas, they don't have this opportunity to be able to even report. But they are bringing their cases to, if there are welfare officers in those provinces, they bring those cases to the district or the province, yeah. And it's from that we actually are really pushing to be established at the district, so that their cases and how it's referred and how it's dealt with and how it's tracked and how it's closed is actually completed.
All stakeholders were also urged to work together with the department to help address this issue. The Secretary says they are calling for a strong and sustainable community response to gender-based violence. Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Wewak MP Kevin Isifu has been appointed the new PNG Constitutional and Law Reform Commission Chairman. His appointment, officiated at the Government House this morning, was overseen by Prime Minister James Marape, who commended Isifu for his appointment. The PM says his government's proposed reforms are targeted at the electoral and voting process and women representatives on the floor of Parliament. He also mentioned reforms in the PNG Electoral Boundaries Commission report that will relook at the size and number of the electorates in the country.
So those are reforms that we'll also be looking at. The Electoral Boundaries Commission review. He will also be presiding over this to ensure that we look at the size of electorates throughout our country. He will also be looking at the women's in politics, the representation of women in office. From Pangu perspective, we have a very important proposal to put in specific seats for women in our country. We're looking at a higher level of regional seats, probably at the 4 or 5 regions we have in our country where it's designated as women-only seat. This important constitutional office will then go out, consult our stakeholders, consult our electorate constituents, consulting people to ensure some of the reforms are consistent with the preambles of our constitution, as well as consistent with the general majority population desire in our country. So very important work. The Honourable Kevin Isifu will be partaking in as chairman of this Constitutional Law Reform Commission.
Nakia is hoping that with its new media awareness campaign, pig farmers across the country and in rural areas can be able to assist in containing the outbreak of African swine fever. To date, thousands of pigs have been dying of the disease, particularly in Hela, Enga and the Southern Highlands.
In April this year, alarming reports had begun to surface that thousands of pigs had been killed in the Highlands region as a result of African swine fever. The earliest reported detection had been in March 2019 in the Southern Highlands. This led to Agriculture and Livestock Minister John Simon declaring Southern Highlands, Hela and Enga provinces under quarantine as disease areas. Nakia, with a number of key stakeholders, including the Department of Agriculture and Livestock and donor agencies, working both on the field and off in an effort to control its spread. Part of that collaboration saw the launch of a communications response package.
Of course, this is the front end of our campaign. So the front end means that we're putting the information into the public space. But it has to be followed through with a fairly serious level of awareness the next step down, that is within the communities.
But Nakia's Chief Veterinarian Ilari Puana acknowledged the difficulties faced, considering the societal importance of pigs in Papua New Guinean culture.
It was a difficult situation in the Highlands, especially in the provinces that we are talking about pig. This is a pig cultured provinces, and you can imagine this is a very important and special resource that need to be protected.
Severe cases of the disease see death within a 2 to 10 day period from time of infection. The agriculture and livestock industry will be particularly hard hit by the impact of African swine fever. Nakia is mindful of these impacts.
And we have been calling on government many times to resource us properly, Nakia, to protect our borders. Because we have a very big, wide, unmarked land border with Indonesia.
The Pacific Horticultural and Agricultural Access Market Program, or FARMA, which is an Australian government-funded initiative, has been in close consultation with Nakia.
A much better sense now of where it is, what kind of spread is ongoing, and now really is about maximising the awareness so that the broader public can take their role in helping stop this spread and becoming a really much broader issue for Papua New Guinea.
Australia's concern is understandable. Our nearest neighbours have a $5.3 billion industry to protect, which provides formal employment for thousands of people. Nakia has set up a toll-free number operating daily at 180-1332 with its new media campaign launched. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV News.
Among stories after the break, another facility opened in East New Britain to contain possible spread of COVID-19. Bus stop warden program launched to safeguard city residents and illegal buildings demolished. Details after the break. Welcome back. The second COVID-19 isolation facility in East New Britain province was opened last Friday. The facility, named as Guna Na Nuvia, or Home of the Overcomers, was officially opened by the Deputy Prime Minister David Stephen. He says the facility is the first to be built in the country to cater to cases of COVID-19. He also added East New Britain is leading by example by not relying on assistance from Waigani, but to utilise whatever the province has. The facility was an initiative of the East New Britain provincial government, built in response to 2 reported positive cases in the province. Also present during the opening was the Health Minister Jalsa Wong, East New Britain Governor Nakikus Konga and Wewak MP and Opposition Leader Dr. Alin Marat. In an effort to reduce petty crimes in the nation's capital, a program has been launched to help provide security at main bus stop areas. The bus stop warden program will see wardens stationed at respective bus stops to ensure a clean and safe environment for the public. Stakeholders were also urged to work together with the police to help reduce crime in the city.
This program comes after continuous reports of public harassment, especially on women and girls at bus stop areas. To roll out this program, Pacific Corporate Security and Rugby League team Port Moresby Vipers will be providing security at bus stops. Other stakeholders include the Road Traffic Authority and PMV Association.
It's very significant that our sports stars who are role models, they come out and take this pledge, because it starts with us men. When men will change, this nation will change. This country will live.
According to City Manager Frank Ravu, this program is to maintain security at bus stops, and so bus stops are clean, to manage traffic congestion within major bus stop areas, and to ensure a betel nut free bus stop. He says this is also to implement betel nut ban in public areas.
This program basically addresses a whole range of issues in terms of cleanliness, safety, and health as well. So indeed a very good program.
With the increase in crime in main bus stop areas, people were also urged to work together with police to address law and order issues in the city. And City Metropolitan Superintendent Pero Drono says the police is as good as what is invested in it.
I'm only here as good as what is invested into the city. But from this launching, like I said, if I fail to provide the best security at the bus stop, I need help. Hence, this is the occasion that we all come together to provide all the support we can.
According to Moresby South MP Justin Chachenko, a similar program called the Neighborhood Watch was rolled out in Moresby South. The program was deemed a success. Chachenko was thankful the program will be rolled out in all bus stops.
Because we involved the community to participate in looking after their particular areas and make them responsible for their people causing the problems. That's the key, community participation.
Rayon Lakingu National, EMTV News.
Buildings in Lae were demolished last week upon the approval of the Morobe Provincial Building Board for having illegal structures. The demolition exercise was funded by the Lae City Authority, who are working closely with statutory bodies in Morobe.
This warehouse, built in a residential area in Lae's Salamander area, is one of the buildings that was demolished by the Provincial Building Board. According to a Building Board representative, the building was approved by the board in 2015 as a residential property. When it was built, it was constructed as a warehouse. The owners were given 14 days to vacate the premises following a demolition notice which expired on Friday. Machines were brought in and the building was demolished. Another of these structures that were knocked down include the incomplete building opposite the courthouse in Top Town, as well as the structures and buildings within the Erico public toilet premises. The demolition to these structures were upon the approval of the Provincial Building Board for having illegal structures. The Lae City Authority supported the exercise upon the request of the Provincial Building Board.
Lae City Authority has been happy to work in collaboration with the Building Board to ensure that they are able to fulfil their roles as a statutory body of Lae and Morobe as a whole. We will support any statutory body that has to fulfil their obligations under the laws that govern our country and our city.
The demolition exercise is in accordance with Part 5, Section 18 of the Building Act 1971, which indicates that if within 14 days or such further period as the board specifies, after service of a requirement under Section 15, 16 or 17, the building or the subject of the requirement is not demolished, altered or repaired, or facilities are not provided in accordance with the requirement, the board may demolish, alter or repair the building or provide the facilities in accordance with the requirement and recover the cost of the demolition, alteration or repair or the provision of the facilities as the case may be from the owner as a debt. The Lae City Authority is working in collaboration with the Morobe Provincial Building Board to make sure that they fulfill their roles in making sure structures are legal and in compliance with the building laws.
And the Building Board's responsibility is to ensure that structures that are here in Lae are legal, do comply. And if they don't, then this is the outcome. And unfortunately for the owners or whomever that's been involved with it, it's unfortunate for them. However, they must realise that they live in a city that is governed by laws, not just local laws, but national laws.
Charlene Airy, National EMTV News, Lae.
Deputy Chief Censor Ilikomau Ali says internet users must be mindful of the information they are consuming, especially with regards to illicit or indecent material. Ali, who is in Lae with the research team, says children and high school students are vulnerable to being exposed to unfiltered material online, prompted by the widespread use of mobile phones. To understand the risks that users in this age group face, a research is being conducted on media and young users' response to illicit content. This will aid in policies aimed at filtering information.
Two schools in Morobe, Lae Secondary and Wewak National High School, have been selected for this research. The research on media and sexual content aims to gauge views and experiences from students on how they respond to illicit content and the harms it may cause. This is because students now have access to unfiltered information on the internet.
Importantly is to ensure that decent information, appropriate information is disseminated based on the fact that we have a lot of young people that also consume this information.
Lae Secondary School Principal Christopher Raymond said it is an issue and there have been cases of students possessing illicit material which have been dealt with by the disciplinary board.
It is just in order that we have these interventions or these surveys going on so that there can be interventions made available for the consumption of public and especially our young children who are our future. Something good should happen. So that,
In 2006, the Censorship Office developed a concept on internet content filtering systems. In order for this to progress, the Censorship Office is placing more emphasis on research. Principal Research Officer Hale Lahui said this research will aid in policy planning and development regarding this.
The questionnaire also seeks young people views as to how they download, what type of information they download from the internet or any form of media, and how they're able to restrict the information that they're accessing.
The stakeholders involved include the PNG Science and Technology Secretariat, the Department of National Planning and Monitoring, and the PNG National Research Institute. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lae.
The Agriculture and Livestock Minister made commitments to rebuild the cocoa industry and assist farmers in terms of nurseries and distribution of seedlings. Minister John Simon says he will make sure that the Cocoa Board works with the plantation owners and farmers to improve cocoa production. The minister committed 500,000 kina towards this program.
Agriculture Minister John Simon was on Karkar Island over the weekend at the invitation of Sumcar MP Chris Nangoi. They visited a number of cocoa plantations. The minister also held discussions with plantation owners as well as farmers on issues they faced with cocoa and copra farming and production. The minister visited Kulkul Plantation owned by BRB Enterprise, where he was given a tour of the cocoa processing fermentary and nursery. He is also planning to talk with plantation owners to give land back to the landowners and plantation workers so people can take ownership and work on the land to supply buyers. Sumcar MP and CS Minister Chris Nangoi acknowledged the commitment made by the Agriculture Minister to support the sector in his electorate and improve the lives of his people. Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Medeng.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the kina opened unchanged at $0.291 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina is buying $0.2815, $0.4060 Australian dollars, $0.2424 euro, and 29.64 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee and copra closed lower, cocoa closed higher. Crude oil is trading lower, palm oil closed lower, and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 580.25 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 96.37 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 93.35 points higher. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll be back with stories making headlines overseas after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, a New Zealand judge has described the murder of a 9-year-old boy by his 15-year-old babysitter as every parent's worst nightmare. Daniel Cameron was a trusted babysitter who looked after Hunter McIntosh several times before. But one night last October, he stabbed Hunter to death. Today, Cameron was sentenced to life in prison.
Loving me so much.
An emotional mother, Amy King, addressing the teenager who killed her son Hunter at home last October.
They hate Daniel. They hate that this is our life now without Hunter and with the trauma of the way Hunter died.
She left 9-year-old Hunter in the care of then 15-year-old Daniel Cameron while she played pool with his mother at the local pub. The packed courtroom heard Cameron had looked after Hunter at least 10 times before and was liked by the victim. But Amy King returned home later that night to a traumatic scene.
I remember finding my son dead, a knife protruding from his stomach, blood around his mouth, and being so pale. And I just knew I couldn't do anything for him.
Hunter was stabbed in the chest and abdomen by a 20-centimetre knife with signs of strangulation. Psychiatric assessments found little explanation for a motive other than frustration with an annoying air horn-like device Hunter was using. Later that night, Daniel was spotted walking outside. He sent messages to friends on Snapchat and Facebook asking, "What would you do if I killed someone?" At 10:30, he texted his mother, "I'm sorry, come get me." Hunter's godmother, Mandy King, told the court the family's lives had been ruined.
I strongly believe if my sister wasn't pregnant with Hunter's brother at the time of Hunter's death, she wouldn't be with us today, and neither would I.
Justice Dunningham told Daniel Cameron the impact of his offending has been devastating.
It has shattered every member of Hunter's large extended family. Your crime is every parent's worst nightmare, and Hunter's family are living that nightmare.
She sentenced the 16-year-old to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 11 years.
United States President Donald Trump has been caught posting a white supremacist video, but he says he didn't realize what it was and deleted it as soon as he became aware of the contents. But his vice president only made matters worse by refusing to say Black Lives Matter.
President Trump retweeted this video Sunday morning purporting to be a protest at the Villages retirement community in Florida when one man yelled out. The retweet drew instant condemnation and charges of racism from both sides of the aisle.
There's nothing much to be said. That is inappropriate, and it should be taken down.
A few hours later, the president did.
This is really not about the president taking it down. This is about the judgment of the president in putting it up.
The incident comes as racial tensions flare around the country following the death of George Floyd, giving rise to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So you won't say Black Lives Matter?
John, I really believe that all lives matter.
The White House explained in a statement, President Trump is a big fan of the Villages. He did not hear the one statement made on the video. What he did see was tremendous enthusiasm from his many supporters.
And Trukai Sports is next. Fidelis Sukina is at the sports desk.
Thank you, Helen. Cricket PNG trials schools cricket program and MVIL renew sponsorship for referees. Join me in Trukai Sports after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. As community-based activities gradually adjust to the new normal, sporting organizations are among many others that are adjusting to the new normal. Today at the Amini Cricket Grounds, Cricket PNG tried out their annual BSP-sponsored program. Students from June Valley Primary and Boraboa Primary Schools were at the home of cricket to trial out the program.
Cricket PNG is one of the sporting bodies in the country rolling out their programs after the uplift of the COVID-19 state of emergency. The annual Bank South Pacific sponsored program, which runs in 11 centres around Papua New Guinea through the Game Development Department, saw its trialling today at the Amini Cricket Grounds. The trial run involved students from 2 schools in the nation's capital, including Boraboa and June Valley Primary Schools.
The school cricket program is a big part of Cricket PNG and entry-level programs. So the trialling of this program following effects of COVID-19 is very important. So the message out to the centers will be the program that's taking place right now will be based on how effective it will be before taking it out to the centers.
Cricket PNG Game Development Manager Vayana Gaba said the BSP-sponsored program is a successful player pathway platform which has seen the making of elite-level players.
Yeah, tracing system that when they learn the program in elementary schools, we make sure that we trace the students up to the level where grade 1 and grade 2, they've learned basics already, so we take them into hardball competitions again. So the pathway that leads up to the elite level, there's hardball cricket, there's get cricket. We have Nosaina Pokana, Hiri Hiri Patana, Lega Siaka, Damien Ravu, Dogo Dobau. They are products of BSP School Cricket Program.
Ms. Gaba noted that Cricket PNG is ensuring standard operating procedures are adhered to and have incorporated all Cricket PNG programs, including the BSP School Cricket Trial.
We are taking into consideration safety measures for COVID-19, and we've started with contact tracing, washing of hands, sanitizing of hands, the balls, equipment that will be used today. We have standard operating procedures in place, and we're following that to make sure the trial in NCD is successful before taking it out to PNG centers in operation with cricket.
Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
Motor Vehicle Insurance Limited today renewed their sponsorship for the referees that will be officiating in the Rugby League Intercity Cup competition. MVIL has allocated 250,000 kina to support referees this year. Referees who will be officiating in the Rugby League Intercity Cup competition have renewed sponsorship by Motor Vehicle Insurance Limited. Representatives from MVIL and the Papua New Guinea National Rugby League competition signed the renewal of the sponsorship today. Michael Makap, Managing Director of MVIL, said it was the best option to have their key messaging on road safety a part of the branding in the competition. He said Rugby League can drive the key message.
And the coverage that we get, and I'm quite pleased after talking to Stanley that we get a good coverage and a message going out throughout the competition where it is played. Our message, MVIL message, is given, and that is play safe and drive safe.
Stanley Hondina, PNG NRLC manager, said their mass media platforms will ensure the message of road safety is spread throughout the Rugby League fraternity.
So when we use a platform like Rugby League to say play by the rules, drive by the rules, then they take it out to venues outside of the game. Our reach is immense. We reach to close to the population of the Rugby League followings. We have that message driven on all our TV contents, on our social media pages, on every platform that PNG and RLC or RFL is involved in, and every followers of the game, they can associate themselves if they are driving that they drive by the rules.
Makap and Hondina signed the necessary paperwork, which ensures the money is transferred to the PNG NRLC. The funding was 500,000 last year, but with the shortened season and the financial uphill battle during COVID-19, the funding has been halved.
Because Rugby League is like a religion, as they say, all over the world, that Papua New Guineans love their rugby, and so we believe we are putting this in a right way. So it's difficult times for this half of the year. We have committed 250,000 kina to the sponsorship of the referee engagements, and so we believe that's a worthwhile package, and we believe that Stanley and the team are going to come at the end of the year and tell us some mileages and what they've achieved, and we believe and we are committed also.
Hondina said that the 250,000 kina funding is welcome, with new uniforms in sight and the opportunity to continue the training and capacity building of referees to benefit from the MVIL sponsorship.
There's the significant cost components that come with it, so this will help us to dress our referees properly so they carry out the messages of MVIL as our sponsor, as well as the technical component of it to build them to be good referees through courses and programs and trainings, conferences that we annually do for the referees.
Referees in the Intercity Cup competition have been going through refresher courses with Northern and Highlands Confederate-based referees to go through their training this weekend. Guma Opi, the referees trainer, says they need refreshers to keep them up to date with the rules. It is important for referees to have annual refreshers, and Guma Opi, who is the Rugby League referees trainer for referees in Papua New Guinea, stressed this.
I run a course every year because I want to remind all the referees to know the rules, and I like the young ones are coming up ones, trying to teach them the rules also.
Guma clarified that the 6 against set restart rule currently adopted by the NRL will not be applied in the Intercity Cup competition.
The one rule that's set to play rule that's for NRL rules only. It's not the international rule, so we're not going to apply that set to play rules. We are going to use the international rules.
With so much criticism by crowds, players and even team officials, Guma says referees in the Intercity Cup competition have video reviews to help improve their skills.
When they play on the live television, we come back in a week. We just replay the video to watch the referee how he's going to do the mistakes. So we record them down, and when a training time comes, I just remind them that you are on. You do this, and do that. So when it's going to go back again, I used to advise him, don't do the same thing again.
But Guma, who is a 35-year refereeing veteran, says that players also need to understand the rules. But to counter discrepancies, coaches are also urged to report referees with presumed poor standards.
And the players, they have to understand the rules of the game, and also when a referee, for example, when a referee, penalizes them, they don't have to come and ask a question. They just go back, and also the coaches are looking at how the referee's refereeing too. So if the referee's not refereeing well, he'll come back to me and tell me that your referee's not doing well, so I can go back and advise the referee.
And Trukai Sports continues with news on football and Special Olympics after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Wellington Phoenix are reaching the end of their quarantine days, with the team aiming to be out of their New South Wales isolation by Friday.
Step by step, the Wellington Phoenix are getting closer to the end goal. And as they enter the final days of quarantine, the team's skipper's hanging out for the change of scenery.
Not much we can do here. You're stuck in this kind of tiny little room. Even when you got the heater on, it's like a washing machine sound. So you're trying to sleep with that in the background. It's very difficult. So I haven't had a good night's sleep yet.
A move to a hotel this Friday should fix that, but the team will continue to train at Valentine Sports Park. Perhaps not so comfortable, the COVID-19 testing regime.
We have both nostrils done. The second one, it was painful. I think the woman who did it, I don't think she liked football. The way she just rammed it up there, it was pretty painful.
While game day is still 2 weeks away, Trans-Tasman football's already celebrating. The FIFA Women's World Cup hosting victory, further encouragement to establish a Phoenix ladies side.
Massive. I think you hear, especially Wellington Phoenix, speaking to the owner about it, how big it is for the football, and for them to bring obviously a women's team for Wellington Phoenix. It's going to be huge for the game. And you've seen how much it's grown in England, in America.
Exciting future opportunities for the club and a little bit more freedom in a few days' time.
Russia is still not participating in world sports and is still banned from hosting major events. But there is one global competition they can host. Sanctions don't apply at the Special Olympics. One Russian town is stepping up.
Special Olympic sport is for the 200 million people in the world with an intellectual disability. It's often about joy. There are no world records. Medals are shared across ability. The World Anti-Doping Agency doesn't operate here. It's never yet needed to. When Sweden withdrew from hosting the next Winter Games, there was a sudden gap. In stepped Kazan, Russia, so tarnished by doping, banned pending appeal from hosting global competitions by WADA. But Special Olympics can go there.
Aren't you lending credibility and integrity to a sporting regime that seems to the world to be toxic?
We're lending credibility and legitimacy to a sporting regime that wants to welcome the athletes of Special Olympics. Full stop.
Special Olympics exists for people like Jenny Lee. The confidence she took from competing for Britain at the last Winter Games still glowed when I spoke to Jenny and her mum.
If I put myself out there, I can just show them saying, you can just do it, no matter what sport you do. You know, put yourself out there.
It's about being the best you can be, isn't it?
Yeah.
To understand the point of Special Olympics is to appreciate a different sense of winning. Perhaps that is the big message for Russia and for everywhere.
And that ends Trukai Sports. Helen will be back with the weather details. Bye for now.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Partly cloudy with light drizzles and fine weather in Port Moresby. Windy and mostly fine, although partly cloudy in Daru. Light drizzles, then fine weather in Kerma. Few showers, then cloudy morning in Alotau. And rain showers at times in Popondita. In the Momasa region, light rain drizzles, then cloudy in Leh. Partly cloudy with a few showers in Midang and Wewak. Mostly fine, although partly cloudy in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine, although partly cloudy in Lorengau and Buka. Mostly fine weather in Kavieng and partly cloudy with light drizzles, then fine weather in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, few rain drizzles tonight, then morning fog patches in Mount Hagen. Cloudy with occasional rain showers, then morning fog in Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's the way it is this Tuesday, the 30th of June 2020. From the entire news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.